I will barely have enough to be able to make it. That's the whole idea. And the replay is going to end pretty soon.
Go, go, go!
So if you've been following me so far, the points that I'm trying to hammer across is that a build order is a way to maximize the efficiency of what you're doing in your early game in order for you to have a strategy. And the key points that you need to that you need to remember when starting your early game build order, or your build, let's just call it your build. When you're doing your early game build, there are a few key points that you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on. First of all, can I die if I'm doing this? Okay, let's go back to the beginning of the game, and let's take a look at this position right here. This position right here is 6 workers in a single building. This is an unacceptable position because you can die in this position. There is nothing for you to defend with if you at this point in the game. Now, this is also an unavoidable position because this is the very beginning of the game, but I want to point out the fact that it is unacceptable at any point whatsoever for you to be in a vulnerable situation like this in the early game, where pretty much anything can kill you. Your first goal should be to ensure that you cannot die. So what a build order can do for you as well, aside from maximizing your money, it also maximizes the efficiency at which you pump out units. So you're pumping out attack and defense units as quickly as possible. This first Marine ends up popping out at around the 3-minute and 30-second mark, which is around the time that most races would end up popping out their own starter units.
You want a piece of me, boy?
So what I'm trying to say here is that this build order should maximize... I'm sorry, I'm getting stumbled over my words here. You need to make sure that your build order lets you stay alive. Make sure that you're pumping out units as quickly as possible, but you don't want to sacrifice your economic advantage. You want to make sure you're constantly pumping out workers, constantly gathering things, constantly building stuff with your unused minerals. So, first thing is, can I stay alive? Second thing is, are my minerals being used? Is all my money being used, or am I piling it up? If you're not using money, you're not building things that you can be using to kill your opponent with. You're not improving your game. You're not improving your own army. You're not improving your economy. When you have money building up, that is bad. You want to make sure that you're always sinking your money into one thing or another, but you don't want to be queuing up things that you don't need. So for example, if at this point in the game I wanted to say, well, I'm starting to have close to 200 minerals, I'm going to throw down 2 barracks. No, you're not going to do that, because if you try to throw down 2 barracks, that means you have to wait for your minerals to build up a little bit. And that's not really all that desirable, because that's delaying for the sake of just being able to produce more units at a later point in time. Also, if you try to save up money for something, you should have a plan for it, because although that usually means that you're going to be cutting something out, which means SCV production usually. So let's take a look at this. Now my minerals got a little high. I decided to throw down a second building. Like I said, it was supposed to be a factory. But you know, my money's staying low. I have a Marine out with another Marine ready to go. I mean, another Marine training. So at this point, I'm kind of safe. I mean, of course, this is not a very comfortable position. Just one Marine is not going to hold up to anything. But if, say, for example, my opponent tried to scout me out to see if I was vulnerable, the Marine would be able to shoot down that scout. And even though my opponent would be able to see that I'm in a vulnerable position, hey, this is still within the first 5 minutes of the game. Neither army is likely to have very much unless one of the players is doing an all-in, or as we call it, a cheese build, which I will be covering in a little bit, by the way. So don't fret too much about it. But see, I'm trying very hard, and I feel like I'm failing, which is probably a bad thing because I'm trying to teach you. But I really want you to understand the concept of a build order. It is to maximize the efficiency of your building, of your construction, while keeping your economy solid, strong. Always building SCVs, always spending your money, always making sure you can stay alive. So you're building things as your money gets high, you're constantly making workers, you're making sure you're never getting supply blocked, and you're never really getting anything that you don't need. For example, if you were to do a build where instead of doing what I did, this is just a very standard build where you go from one barracks and then one factory, and then eventually you go into one starport. But if I wanted to do something like, say, I just wanted to go for a ton of Marines in the early game and just use those, just a ton of Marines, then I would probably not get this much gas, because I don't need this much gas when it comes to Marines. I would need it if I was getting Marines in Stim Pack, which is actually a pretty decent deviation from this. But let's not get too far of ourselves. What I'm trying to tell you is make sure that you're getting money that you're going to be using. If you're getting gas and you don't have anything to spend that gas on, that's not really a good idea. So if you have, like, for example, if you start getting gas really early in the game and you don't construct the factory till after you're like at a 500 or 600 gas, that's an indicator that you did something that you probably shouldn't have been doing the whole time. You could have had those SCVs and very easily just mining minerals the whole time, which, let's say you've been keeping your minerals really low but your gas is getting really high, which is actually not a good idea. But the point is, you're not spending the money you're gathering. You want to make sure that everything you have at your disposal is being used appropriately. So let's go ahead and do that build, but actually do it against a real opponent so that you can see how well it holds up. So I'm gonna go ahead and just to show you that it can, just to show you its viability, I'm gonna go ahead and do this build against an easy computer. No, not an easy computer, a medium computer, and I'm gonna leave it at random. So let's go ahead and start this game, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I have been doing, that I have been trying to tell you about this whole like past 10 minutes or so. And you're gonna see how it really plays out when you're actually playing a game. How it really helps you to have a build order like this and follow it. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell my listeners to start harvesting. GLH shift the computer, even though I don't need to. By the way, this is good manners right here. Every time you start up a game online, you want to make sure you say something. If you're not gonna say something nice, don't say anything at all. I like to say GLH shift, which stands for good luck, have fun, which is a very common opening statement between the players. You know, just wishing each other good luck, have fun. I just said that. But you know, it's just being very good mannered and making sure you're a polite opponent. And even if you end up like raging at the end, you can just rage quietly and back out of the game when you're losing. So I'm about to get to 10 supply, so I'm going to pull away an SCV. I'm going to go ahead and build my supply depot here. Why am I building the supply depot here? Because as Terran, one of the unique advantages you have, and I mentioned this earlier, is that you're able to build pretty much anywhere. And if you have a ramp like this leading up into your base, you can block it off with your own buildings, preventing enemies from being able to walk in and just mess you up and just see everything that you have. So as soon as this worker finishes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out this worker to the opponent's base across the map. Why the fuck would I do that? Because I want to scout the opponent. I want to know what they're doing. I want to be aware of my position in the game and their position in the game, so that I know that am I in the advantage? Am I in danger? Does he have more units than I have? Is he doing something funky I should be aware of? So I'm going to send out... I like to send out a scout to gather intel from the opponent right after he finishes his first supply depot, just so that I can start getting some awareness of what's going on. And I'll usually control group him to the #1 key. So I'm fighting a Protoss opponent. I did not know that because I set my opponent to random, so I didn't know what he spawned as. And I'm going to make sure I'm coming back to my base occasionally to make sure I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm going to hit 1 to go to my SCV, 4 to my base, 1 to my SCV, 4 to my base. And the barracks is about to finish, and I'm just kind of waltzing around his base, seeing everything he's got going on. I'm going to make sure I'm doing my orbital command, building my marine. The SCV is going back. Okay, let's go back to the scouting. So it doesn't look like he's doing anything really funky. It looks like a pretty standard build. He just made 2 pylons. He has a gateway going on. He's just getting his gas, so he can start doing gas things, which is really important as Protoss. And I'm starting to build up some minerals, so I'm going to go ahead and throw down a second supply depot. What I'm going to do is that instead of putting the supply depot behind my refinery, I'm going to put it right here. My SCV is getting attacked, I'm going to press 1 and direct him away from harm's way. That zealot is definitely going to kill him if I leave him in here, so I'm just going to back out that SCV by clicking on a Selnaga watchtower on my mini-map.
You scared me.
And there we go. The SCV is just going to be on his merry way to avoid getting killed.
Piece of me, boy. Been waiting. Big job.
So I got a little distracted and I didn't make my factory when I was supposed to, but there goes my factory, and it's making use of my gas now. And let's see. Let's go ahead and move this guy over here and build another supply depot. Now, what have I done here with my supply depots at the entrance? See, if I try to move my units out, they won't be able to. I'm clicking on the outside area, but they can't find a way to get out. No units can get in or out by ground. I gotta make sure I'm building SCVs the whole time. No units can get in by the ground, by the ramp whatsoever, because I blocked up the ramp completely. So if your opponent were to try and march up here with like a ton of zealots and try to kill you, they wouldn't be able to get through immediately. They have to fight their way and break through this supply depot while the Marines are wailing away at them from behind the supply depot wall. So this factory is finished. I'm going to transform it into a tech lab factory, and I'm going to go ahead and keep producing Marines out of my out of my barracks consistently. I'm starting to get a little bit of excess minerals now, so I gotta make another barracks. So, and then I'm gonna make a second refinery. Oh shit, I did not mean to bring that up. Now that I have an engineering bay, I'm gonna start making infantry weapons level 1. That way my Marines can have a little bit more kick to their attack.
Complete.
Now that my factory is finished, I'm gonna start making a tank out of it. I'm gonna press S from it with the tech lab attached. And if I want to lay out my units, see, this is one thing that, this is one reason why you can completely block off with Terran be okay, because you can lower supply depots, and that way you can just move units in and out. And right here, 5 Marines, supply depots defending right here like this, I'm in a relatively secure position, unless my opponent gets a ton of units all of a sudden, or if he has been trying to get a ton of units the whole time, there's no way he's going to be able to just break through this. I'm going to be in a very solid, sturdy, defensible position, where I'll feel pretty safe and I can just kind of do my own thing. So I'm going to transform these barracks into a reactor barracks and a tech lab barracks. And I'm going to be researching something from my tank. By the way, at this point my build got a little wonky because I'm not staying on top of it because I'm trying to talk and explain things as we go. You'll notice that our minerals are getting really high. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spam. This generally wouldn't be how it happens if I was playing the game seriously. But I am trying to educate you at the same time that I am trying to play, and it is kind of difficult to keep my attention in 2 different spots like this. So I'm just making sure I'm building out of all my buildings at this point, making sure my money's staying down. I just got supply block, which is really bad. I'm at 35. That should not have happened, especially since I have so many excess minerals. So I'm gonna throw down 2 additional supply depots. I'm gonna start building Marines. As soon as I get up to 100 minerals again, 100 gas, I mean. Since I have a tech lab attached to this barracks and I'm using Marines, I'm going to research Stimpack, because Stimpack is vital to this. Oh, you see this? See what's happening over here? Okay, he didn't even try to go up the ramp, but since these zealots right here, these Protoss zealots are melee units, if they wanted to get up here and start hurting my units, they just would not have been able to. The only thing I would have been able to shoot up here and hurt my units would have been the Stalker. But of course he didn't have very many stalkers, it was mostly a zealot force. And because I see that his force is actually a lot smaller than mine, now that they've lost a couple units to that really bad decision to just kind of run in there, I'm going to go ahead and send out my siege tank with my Marines. Oh, I have a second siege tank, so I'm going to go ahead and send these guys out to the front of the enemy's base, not into the opponent's base, because that's not how siege tanks work. Siege tanks are probably one of the most important elements of the Terran army, because they are ridiculously powerful for offense and defense. But for the most part, you'll be using them for defense because, and I'm going to show you why. Siege tanks on their own, when they're like this, mobile and ready to attack at any moment in time, they do a fair bit of damage. The 15 damage regular, 25 versus armored. But the real strength of siege tanks lies in this ability, Siege Mode, which you can research off the tech lab of the factory. If I use Siege Mode right here, the tanks transform into siege engines, and then they start just raining all down.